This is a breakdown of my peak week for my Dublin Marathon training block. So this is week 8 of the plan, and like always on Mondays I start off with a hill session. So I did about 3.5 kilometers as a warm up, then 8 hill reps up this hill that you can see in the video. Then I kind of jogged another 1k to another hill, slightly shorter hill, and I did 2 reps on that. So overall I did about 10 hill reps on this day, going at a sprint up the hill and then taking it nice and easy back down. So 30 seconds up the hill and then a minute back down to recover. Moving on to Tuesday, and it was a long aerobic effort, so this is done at my recovery pace. The average was 5:48 per kilometre and I covered 23 kilometres in this run. So I was running for 2 hours and 15 minutes in this run, so just really good for building the base, but also just get the blood flowing in the legs, kind of recover from my long run the previous Sunday and from my effort the day before on the hill reps. So kind of getting 2 different stimuluses here. I'm increasing my aerobic fitness, which improves my ability to run for longer, and then I'm also just getting the legs, get the blood flowing in them, and just helping with recovery overall, which will put me in a good place for my faster run on a Wednesday, which is a threshold session. Another benefit of this run is you can see the weather's pretty bad. It was raining the whole time, puddles everywhere. So I put on my rain jacket and just got out and did it. You can't decide what the weather's going to be on race day. You never know if it's going to be raining. So you kind of want to know what it's like to run in them conditions. So these kind of runs are good to do when the weather isn't in your favour. Sometimes you can do them on a treadmill. I prefer when I can to actually get out and do them in the actual elements, and you're still facing things like hills and wind. So you're just getting a bit more of a benefit than you would by doing the same run on a treadmill. So after saying all that, I did my threshold session on a Wednesday on a treadmill. So at this point it'd been raining for well over 24 hours, and there's puddles already from the day before, so basically I just figured it was better to do this one on a treadmill and make sure I'm hitting the right paces, not risking slipping somewhere like that when I'm kind of going at a fast pace. That could basically take me out of the marathon at this point, so basically decided not to take any risks with this one and just do it indoors on the treadmill. This does make it a little bit easier to hit the paces, and the belt is kind of propelling you along. You're not facing wind or hills or anything like that, but the main thing is that I was hitting my pace, which is all that I was kind of focused on for this session. So yeah, much better to do on the treadmill, and got it done. So in total I did 20 kilometers. 16 of this was done at threshold, so 2 by 6k reps. They were all done at the same pace, 3:38 per kilometer. So I would take a 1 kilometer break in between each of these reps, and then another kilometer break after them, and went into a 4 kilometer rep then at the same pace. So in total, as I said, 16 kilometers of threshold work, so pretty good work. I don't really enjoy treadmill runs, but when they have to be done, they have to be done. So I think in this case, yeah, it was the best thing to do, and the session went pretty well. Moving on to Thursday, and this one was designed to be 2 hours long at my recovery pace again. So the average for this one was 5:22, and you might notice there's a bit of a difference between the average in this easy run and the average on Tuesday, and they're both the same distance run, but there was about a 12-minute difference in between them. So the main reason for this is probably just that my body's in a bit of a better shape on Thursday than it was on Tuesday. I had done my long run on the Sunday, and that was obviously done a lot of marathon pace. If you watch my previous video, you'll know about it. And I'd also done some hill sprints on Monday, so my body was probably just a bit more beat up on Tuesday and just was naturally going slower. I stick to a certain heart rate, so I kind of let my body dictate the pace rather than deciding the pace. So just by natural occurrences on Thursday, my pace is a good bit faster, to over 20 seconds per kilometre faster. So these are the kind of things you'll see with marathon training, but it just means that I hadn't killed my body on the Wednesday in the threshold session, and I was going to be in a good position then going into the weekend. So again, I covered 23 kilometers in this one, so building up that base fitness. 2 hours on the feet is pretty good, especially when I'm hoping to run under 3 hours for the marathon. So I'm kind of getting a good chunk of that in this run here, even if it is at an easy pace, and that should then help me to kind of run faster for longer. So this is called your aerobic fitness, which is kind of using oxygen for energy basically. You'd also get the same benefits as I mentioned on Tuesday, so blood flowing through the legs to kind of recover from that session on the Wednesday and get ready for my track session on the Friday. So moving on to Friday at the track, so there's some coaches with their kids on the track, so I couldn't really record the session, but as you can see it was a lovely evening for it, and yeah, I got the session done. So overall I got about 14k in, did 2k warm up, 8 1 kilometer reps, which is at my VO2 max is around 3:17 per kilometer. Took a 75-second break in between each rep, After this I moved on to 4x400 meters, so that's one lap of the track, again the same pace, and this was a 60-second rest in between, and then I just did a little 100-meter sprint at the end just for kind of the fun of it. So yeah, overall got 14 kilometers in, so pretty good session. Hit my paces the whole time, so I was pretty happy with that. It shows that I'm kind of picking the right paces as well by being able to hold it for the full session. So that's a pretty good speed workout. Then we go into an easy Saturday and then on to our main one on Sunday. So that's just giving a little bit of recovery time in between the speed session on the Friday and your main run on the Sunday. So again, moving on to Saturday, this one was a time based run rather than a distance based. So again, 2 hours, well just over 2 hours in the end, and I got 22 kilometers covered. So in this one is an average of 5:39 per kilometer. So again, you can tell my body was a bit more fatigued from the run the previous evening, especially because this was run kind of early in the morning on Saturday, so it just created a bit less time to recover from that run the previous evening. So got my 2 hours done, 22 kilometers added in, again base fitness and just getting the blood flowing and get myself ready then for the big run on Sunday. So on to Sunday, and this was really the most important session of the week and probably of the whole training block. So I was aiming to cover at least 35 kilometers in this, which is obviously a good chunk in the marathon distance, and again I wanted a lot of this to be done at marathon pace. So this run could have gone one or two ways. So I had a pre-run plan of basically do my 2 kilometer warm up and then 3 sets of 10 kilometers at marathon pace with a kilometer in between, but I kind of had it in my head beforehand that if I was feeling good after each 10 kilometer rep, I'd just go straight into the next one and not take that kilometer in between. So obviously you get a bit more of a stimulus from just continuously running and a better idea of your actual marathon pace by doing it this way rather than by giving yourself a break. But you also have to bear in mind that you're doing a lot of mileage through the week, so of course your body's going to be tired, so you may not be able to just go continuously, whereas you may be able to do that on marathon day. So for this one, basically I kind of left it up to how my body was feeling, and in this run I did manage to do each rep back to back, so I didn't take any breaks in between. So it turned into a 2 kilometer warm up, 30 kilometers at marathon pace, and then I did 5 kilometers at the end just to kind of cool down a little bit, get the muscles recovered, and also just to boost the amount of mileage that I've done pretty much, and that's just all going to keep building fitness. So my goal marathon pace for the Florence Marathon is somewhere between 3:47 to 3:50 if I can manage it. So each of these reps I was trying to aim for around 3:50, and you can see in the stats that I've put up, the first rep was 3:48 average, second rep was 3:49, and then the third rep was 3:48. So in between them there's about a 12-second difference in that kind of second per rep, so not a big difference, and that means that I kept it pretty consistent the whole time, which is a pretty good sign for marathon day itself. In the Dublin Marathon I may go at a bit of a slower pace, at least to start, and then kind of judge how it goes on the day, just because Florence is my main goal, so I don't want to burn myself out in Dublin. It's my B race, so it's kind of lesser importance to me. I do obviously want to kind of PB in it if I can, and obviously have a good race, but it's not the end of the world if it only becomes more of a training run for Florence. Florence is the main one, and that's where I'm looking to set my new PB overall. So whether or not I do PB in Dublin, my overall aim is to get a PB on top of that, even in Florence. The only thing with this run that didn't go well was that kind of towards the end my hip flexor was feeling quite sore. It is a weak area, and I've not been able to get to the gym as much as I would like to kind of prehab it. So it probably means that for the next week or two I'll be doing a lot of rehabbing on it, and just trying to get it in the best shape as possible for Dublin. So in some ways it's kind of the worst time for this to happen. It does kind of create some doubts about how good it'll feel for Dublin, but at the same time it's probably a good time because I'm reducing my mileage and my taper, which I already discussed in a previous video. So it's probably the best time for it to happen in that sense, that I can kind of rest it a little bit and put the work in the gym in order to put it in the best position as possible for Dublin. But in other ways I kind of wanted to continue to kind of train well through my taper in preparation for Florence, but that may have to take a back seat, and that kind of is going to be on a day-to-day basis nearly of how the hip is feeling. But other than that, the run went really well. I got my fueling strategy in, so I tried out the gel that I'm going to use on marathon day, which is basically got 50 grams per gel, which is a lot, so I should be able to fuel quite well off that and not hit a wall. That's obviously if I time my fueling well. So other than the hip flexor, basically everything in this run was really good, really positive as a sign for the marathon itself, and great way to end my peak training week. So in the end for this week, I hit just under 150 kilometers for the week. I basically ran for 12 hours during the week, so that's pretty good. And from now on, we're going to dial that back and basically make things shorter and easier, a bit less intensity and a shorter duration, and that's going to allow the body to recover and be in the best position for Dublin. So that's pretty much a summary of my week. Hope you've enjoyed watching it if you made it this far. If you have any comments or questions, let me know. And thanks for watching.